सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Famed across the land for their beauty, but fearing their love would be forbidden, the river spirits Rangit and Rongnu decided to leave the shadows of the Teesta glacier and elope to the plains. Led by Parilbu the snake, Rongnu soon made it to their rendezvous. Tufto the mountain bird, though, proved an unreliable guide, distracted by colorful flowers and buzzing insects. Enraged by the long winding route, Rangit threatened to head home. But the lovers were eventually reconciled, Lepcha legend records, never to be parted. Entwined for millennia with the joys and sorrows of the people who live on its banks, the Teesta River today also bitterly divides the two nations it runs through. This week, as Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina visited India, she let it be known that securing an agreement on sharing the Teesta is a centerpiece of her diplomacy. In public remarks, Hasina called on India to show more generosity in ongoing negotiations. Bangladesh and India did succeed in reaching a deal on the less contentious Kushiara River, which runs from Assam to Sylhet, but the Teesta remains out of reach. Ever since he was elected in 2014, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been promising he is committed to making this deal happen. The Prime Minister's resolve, though, has run into an intractable reality. In this case, India's national interest isn't good for millions of Indians. Like so much else to do with India and Bangladesh, the struggle over the Teesta dates back to partition. Ever since the late 19th century, British colonial officials first considered diverting the Teesta and Ganga to the Hooghly in order to flush out silt from strategically vital Kolkata port. Following independence, the Indian government pushed forward with the Farakka barrage, a more complex project which also involved power generation and irrigation infrastructure meant to catalyze development in West Bengal. 54 rivers ran from India to East Pakistan, and the smaller country feared the Farakka barrage would become a template for a thoroughgoing choking of its water resources. In response, Pakistan announced plans to build its own barrage downstream of Farakka. The fraught relationship between India and Pakistan ensured there was no serious effort to arrive at a sensible middle ground for resource sharing. Even after Bangladesh won its independence, arriving at water sharing deals proved extremely difficult. Law scholar Bikramjit De has noted that an interim agreement signed in 1975 lasted for just 41 days. A 5-year deal brokered by the United Nations in 1977 gave Bangladesh an 80-20 share of dry season flows, but that deal proved unsustainable. Then, in 1979, Bangladesh completed its work on its own barrage at Dalia, designed to irrigate over 500,000 hectares of land. 5 years later, the country opened the 5,000-kilometer canal network, which carried water from the Dalia barrage to the country's rice and maize farms. Inside just a few years, though, those canals ran dry. Across the border, you see, India had completed another barrage at Gajol Doba in Jalpaiguri, which supplied water to 228,000 hectares of new farmland. From 1996, the economies Yoshiro Higano and Muhammad Fakhrul Islam have observed, India's, I quote, exclusive control of the Teesta's waters in the dry season at Gajol Doba made the Dalia barrage useless. In the monsoon, by contrast, releases of water from the overflowing barrage cause floods and bank erosions which cause serious suffering. Ever since 1996, a framework for resolving disputes over the Ganga and Teesta waters has been in place. The Ganges Water Treaty, which was signed in 1996 by Hasina and then Prime Minister H.D. Deve Gowda, committed India to release water from Farakka to farmers in Bangladesh. In practice, though, political scientist Fahmida Akhtar has noted, flows into Bangladesh often fall below the minimum the country is entitled to in the dry months. The lack of a dispute resolution mechanism in the treaty, moreover, makes it pretty ineffectual at solving problems when they arise. Former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's government hammered out a compromise in 2010. The draft agreement proposed giving Bangladesh and India 40% of the flow each, with provision for arbitration of disputes by the International Court of Justice. For months, then National Security Advisor Shiv Shankar Menon worked to win West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee's consent for the deal and says he finally won her assent. But for reasons that have never been made public, Banerjee suddenly pulled out of the deal. Prime Minister Singh, whose government depended on the support of her Trinamool Congress, was forced to back out. According to some accounts, Banerjee believed the deal would lead to farmers in West Bengal losing some 8,000 cubic feet per second of water in those critical dry months, which would hit agriculture in Cooch Behar, Jalpaiguri, South Dinajpur, North Dinajpur and Darjeeling. Instead, the West Bengal government tried for a 70-30 division of the water in the driest months from December to April. That wasn't acceptable to Bangladesh. Even though TMC leaders no longer have leverage over the union government, the political factors standing in the way of a Teesta deal remain. The Bharatiya Janata Party, which is expanding its electoral presence in West Bengal, is reluctant to back a treaty which would hurt farmers. The Modi government is, moreover, reluctant to risk popular unrest in strategically sensitive regions like Jalpaiguri, Cooch Behar and Darjeeling, which are where the link between India and its northeast run through. The problem on both sides of the border, meanwhile, is becoming more intense each year. The hydrologist Kalyan Rudra, who conducted a study of the issue for the West Bengal government, has observed that siltation is reducing storage capacity in existing barrages and dams. The demand for water is also increasing, and that means ever more friction between India and Bangladesh. The Bangladesh Prime Minister's calls for action are becoming increasingly desperate. Elections are due in 2023, and Hasina knows her close relationship with India is giving ammunition to an increasingly aggressive opposition. Ever since she took office, Hasina has extinguished threats to India like jihadists and provided unprecedented counter-terrorism cooperation. The Prime Minister's failure to be able to do a deal on the Teesta, though, hurts Bangladesh farmers and therefore weakens her hold. Evidence that Hasina is being forced to make concessions to India's enemies today isn't hard to come by. Islamists, supported by the ruling party, are waging a tenacious culture war, mobilizing against women wearing Western clothes to campus, for example, and attacking purported blasphemers. Bangladesh has even sought support from China for water management projects on the Teesta, which will be an obvious strategic concern for India. Experts believe there are things India can do to ease the situation, even short of an immediate treaty. Gauri Nulkar Oak, for example, has suggested that better management of releases of water from dams in Sikkim can make more water available for use in both West Bengal and Bangladesh. The two countries also need to work to enhance groundwater availability and rationalize agricultural water demand. A deal on the Teesta will have real costs for poor and marginal farmers in West Bengal. Costs the Modi government needs to engage with and address. The cost of a hostile government and civil society in Bangladesh, though, will far outweigh the burden in West Bengal. I'm Praveen Swami, and I'm National Security Editor of ThePrint.